to make commas, turn a profit. I'm the boss, Willy Wonka, but it ain't chocolate. Yeah, I'm just being honest, I work for this shit. I'm usually modest, but this beat lit, so I'm going off thoughtless, talking my shit. Yeah, I'ma be the hottest designer in drip. I'm just coming with the rawness. I gotta admit that I'm usually modest, but I'll work hard for my shit.
I'll do the work, yeah, I'll do it till it hurts. I'll invest in my future, I'll invest in the purse. I wanna be so rich, life changes, and I don't ever think about how much I just pay it. Yeah, it's the dream, the American dream. Live on top, don't stop till you got everything. But there's balance, cause this life is a challenge. You gotta live in the...
Hello and welcome to the Marko Yamashita Show. I am your host, Marko Yamashita, here to bring you all the latest in news without spin, without sensationalization, bringing you the honest-to-God truth, discussing the truth, and then providing my own opinion based upon those truths. Thank you so much for joining me. If you are going to be joining me on the VOD, thank you for joining me on the VOD. I really appreciate it. I do want to dive right into this because there are a lot of components that are involved in this, and I think you have the right for me to try to get through this as much as possible. Now, according to the official news, there are criminal allegation investigations that are being levied against both parties. In order for us to understand exactly why we are seeing this happen, we need to take a look at what the Japanese law states and how things work in Japan. One of the big things that you'll see here, and let me actually bring this down to size just a little bit. There we go. So the Japanese legal system is based upon civil law, all right? Under Japanese criminal law, the accused is innocent until proven guilty, and the burden of proof rests upon the prosecutor, or the person that's levying the allegations. The defendant must be given the benefit of the doubt. Should an accused convict make an offense, or someone that's repeat, they'll be subject to punishment prescribed by law. There is a penal code and an additional civil code for Japan itself. Now, Japan also has a layered system of court laws, and by the way, this is being provided here by Canada, as far as their if you're planning to travel, and their travel advice and advisories. This is actually provided by Canadian authorities to let people know exactly what they are walking into when you go over there. So this is a reputable source. Mr. Hexwell, thank you for joining me. So and just to give you another brief overview here, the Japanese and Canadian laws are significantly different, and there's some significant differences between Japanese and U.S. laws as well. This can increase the stress and practical arising from arrest and imprisonment. A certain person, we'll call him LM, talked about indefinite imprisonment without being convicted of a crime, or accused of a crime. They could hold you up for 23 days with the possibility of extension. That's what he's referring to, without being formally charged. As of right now, the criminal complaints have been submitted, but no one has been arrested for any specific crime at this point. The investigations are ongoing, and we'll get to those reports here shortly. Okay. Now, I also want to call your attention to, here we go. This is what I want to look for. So here's the breakdown of what the judicial system looks like in Japan. And we're taking the long route here because you have to understand that there are the significance of going up the court system here varies greatly compared to what she has already been doing. Many of the cases that she has been, putting out there with her attorney, are pure, like defamation, copyright infringement, things of that nature. But they don't deal with spouses or people that were family. Okay, so and a lot of times what happens is those particular cases get looked at through the first tier here of summary courts, or in the case of family courts. Now, however, because we are starting to move up in the escalations of what is likely going to be criminal charges formally filed, and somebody having the potential of being arrested, or maybe even fined and paying the penalty and everything else. This, I believe, from what she has said, that this will be in a district court. Now, typically there is only one judge that deliberates on the civil cases, except for cases that are which the court has decided shall be tried by 3 judges, and certain other cases. Regarding criminal cases, generally a single judge handles the case, an exception for certain serious crimes, which are tried by 3 judges. Okay, so this could, and I haven't seen all of the news information yet. This could be either a panel of 3 judges that deliberate the case, or it could be a single judge. All right. Now, another thing that people need to be aware of when we're talking about this situation, you're going to have many people and many professed experts look at this and throw out opinions. All right. The difference between what we're going to be talking about and what those people are saying is, you have to remember that whatever happens in this case, the law is being applied as it's written into the complaint. Okay, that's completely different than what they're talking about. Right? That these so-called experts, they're talking about disseminating the words of the law and interpretations of the law, so on and so forth. All right. Now, that could be the case with the judge that decides the outcome. However, the judge that is going to be presiding on the outcome has to look at this situation based upon the law as it is written, not as it's argued. They have to look at it as it's written. And the big difference of this is, and it's already happened once in the case of Mikeneko, she tried to press charges against somebody for defamation, for copyright infringement, for harassment, for slander, so on and so forth. And 4 of the 5 complaints that were levied against this person, including disclosing of personal and private information, they were all dropped because the charges that she was trying to bring against this person did not fit the law as it's written. So there's a big distinction with this, okay? So we have to be very careful when we listen to other professed experts or other people who are trying to report on this situation. You have to look at what they're saying and then what the law is before determining whether or not something is, accurate or not. Okay, so I just want you to be aware of this. Okay, so we're gonna move on because there is a lot to cover here. We're gonna move on to not that one. That one. Wow. Oh, there it is. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so Mafumafu did make a statement on this, and he put this out on his X account. And the translation goes like this. The report, I have also been sued by the person that I'm suing in court, so he is countersuing her. And the police have told me when the complaint is received, the police have an obligation to accept it and investigate. He told his fans, there is no need to worry. Of course, you will not be arrested. And he's talking about he's talking about the current complaint, because the current complaint, the current criminal complaint, does not warrant anybody being arrested at this point, because there's no violence, there's no perceived stalking, there's no perceived imminent danger to the person, so on and so forth. So there haven't been any arrests, there hasn't been anything of that nature. I'm assuming he probably got questioned when he countersued, and found out that there was a suit filed against him. So, of course, please rest assured that I have said, of course, backed by evidence, and the lawsuit I have filed is progressing smoothly. Of course, you're going to say that when you're being sued and countersued, because you don't want to say, well, my investigation is not going poorly. So, but it's reassuring that he is at least following the same thing that Mikeneko is going. All right. Lawyers have told me that it's not easy to pass a lawsuit for information disclosure. So in many cases, it would be illegal if the information was disclosed. Now, this is kind of a bad translation of what this is going through, because I through Google Translate for the convenience of you guys. What is being said here is twofold, right? Because if information of a person can be freely accessed on the internet, and the lawyer on the other side can prove that in court, say like Marko Yamashita, right? I try to sue somebody because I think, well, they revealed my real identity online. If I have information out there that reveals my identity online, for people to say this is who this person is, and the other lawyer can prove it in court, that automatically gets thrown out. And we know this because Mikeneko lost another lawsuit of the same thing that was filed back in 2020 after she was terminated from Hololive. And she tried to sue several people who were releasing her real information online. But the information that was being released was already being able to be sourced from another public source. So that information was already out there in the wild, and you cannot sue somebody for leaking information that is already out in the wild and willingly released by you. All right. So, and of course, he's saying, this is, sorry for it being a dark topic again. It'll take up a lot of time, but he'll report once it's been resolved. All right. So he put out this report. Now, of course, this is the person in question. And let's see here. Just want to look at my notes here. Oop, that's not what I want. I want to show original. All right, so we're gonna throw this through DeepL so people can see what is actually being said. All right, so Mafumafu updated on the 18th, revealed that the status is he's currently involved in the legal battle with his ex-wife. In January this year, of course, he announced that there was a marriage in between the two people, and then a divorce about 6 months later. During the divorce scenes, Mafumafu was notorious for slanderous remarks made against. So supposedly there were a slew of slanderous remarks made against Mafumafu on the internet. So he requested the disclosure and discovered that most of the people and most of the posts were made by his ex-wife. All right, so this is what is being talked about a lot. That supposedly Mikeneko went out there and created a bunch of different accounts, anonymous accounts, and throwing slander and shade against him. All right, now there is a bit of an irony in this, because if he can prove this to be true, and I do believe there's probably enough evidence out there for him to prove this, because even Mikeneko had she had admitted to going out and saying bad things against him on the internet. All right, this could be used against her. All right, and this could be used against her for the slander and defamation penalty that is in Japanese law. And this could have some very big repercussions towards her, because she has openly admitted to doing this. Right? And it could be that her lawyer said, you know what, that there's not enough information to defend you, so you might as well fess up on this. And she's going out, taking a different approach. But in the case of Mafumafu, this can be said that yes, she has admitted to this, and this has actually happened. Right? Now, there's a difference that there is a civil suit out there in between the two, compared to what Mikeneko has announced. And Mikeneko has announced actual criminal activity lawsuit, which is substantially different. It's a different lawsuit than what is currently going on between them. One of them is basically, you did this while we were married, I did that while you were married, and we're going to argue about this and then have litigation done with it. The other one here is actually, somebody saying this person wronged me criminally and I want justice for it. And that's what we're currently talking about. Now he said, I have been sued by the person I'm suing in court, and they're suing him back. I told the police that if I receive a complaint, the police had told me, and this is a bad translation again, the police have told me that when they receive a complaint, they're obligated to investigate it, and he states he's not going to be arrested. And again, back here at the very tail end, she did acknowledge that some of the posts that she did make were from her. She completely denied the allegations of two-timing and moral harassment that Mafumafu is specifically accusing her of. So the slander part has already been established, and it's likely why she is pursuing actual criminal action against him versus trying to continue to fight a civil lawsuit, because she knows that the information's there. He has already gathered the information, so any current lawsuit or the original lawsuit would be fruitless to keep on pursuing. So that would probably be why she is transferring over to a criminal lawsuit, and we'll get to what those are here, right? Whoops, there we go. Okay, so this is actual Japanese law. All right, this is Japanese law as it's translated by the government of Japan, and what they are arguing about here is chapter 35 under crimes against reputation. And they are going specifically after Articles 230 down to 234 here. Right, and we're going to briefly look at this here because we need to understand what the laws are that they are chasing after here. The laws here state that under defamation, a person who defames another person by making allegations in public, regardless of whether the facts are true or false, is punished by imprisonment or imprisonment without work for not more than 3 years, or a fine of not more than 500,000 yen. All right. So, just under Article 30, Section 1 here, we already have established that both of these individuals have done this to each other, right? And that is not a secret. That is actual fact, all right? Now, whether or not they're disputing this is a different story. But there's also different things that could fall under this, which need to be considered, right? And let's see, that would go down to Article 230-2, when an act is prescribed under paragraph 1 of the preceding article is found to relate to matters of public interest and have been conducted solely for the benefit of the public, the truth or falsity of the alleged facts are examined, and punishment is imposed. Punishment is not imposed if it's proven to be true. All right. So since they are a public figure, a public celebrity, they're both in, the celebrity entertainment industry and stuff like that. After they do the investigation, if those allegations prove to be true and there's enough information saying, yeah, he cheated on me, or yeah, she cheated on me, then if it's true, then that lawsuit can be dropped. If it's not true, they can move forward. All right. And if there's enough evidence for them to do that, they can move forward. Now, when we look at even when we get down to Article 231, a person who insults another in public, irrespective of whether the accusations are fact or not, shall be punished under penal law or petty fine. So, I mean, again, that's already happened in public. They have both made it abundantly clear that they hate each other's guts. So, now, when we get down to Article 232, crimes prescribed under this chapter are prosecuted only upon complaint. Actually, we could skip that one. We need to go down to Chapter 35. Okay, so when we get down to Chapter 35 here, this is where we start getting into the really big meat of a lot of the arguments that are happening, and why it's extremely important for people to understand exactly what they're doing when they think that they are taking one side or the other. Okay, because when you're looking at the law as it's written, under Chapter 35, Article 233, a person who damages the credibility or obstructs the business of another person by spreading false rumors or by use of fraudulent means is punished by imprisonment from not more than 3 years or a fine of not more than 500,000 yen. Now, you gotta remember that these people are entertainers, and part of the way that they entertain people is through the internet. Now, if they, and I've actually told Mikeneko this, I said, you can, so long as you can prove that you have been, as a business and as an entity and your own IP, that you are being damaged by this other person for what they are doing, which is causing you to have an interruption of your business, which is entertaining other people, you have a case against them for obstruction of business. Now, that is also true when you have other content creators, not naming any names, but you have other big content creators coming out and throwing all this shade around without even knowing what the actual facts are, or what is happening with this topic. They automatically target her and trying to compare their situation with the whole, you know, Jack Sparrow guy situation from a while back, and saying, oh, she's definitely at fault on this, which is damaging her credibility and her public figure out in public. That in turn diminishes her business. And as a result of that, you're getting obstruction of business by either proxy or by the original person that is causing the commotion to happen. In which case you can prosecute this in court. Now, when you get down to Article 234, a person who obstructs the business of another person by force is dealt with the same manner as prescribed under the preceding article. Now, this can also fall into line with using the the mass media, whoever will listen to you, rag magazines, gossip magazines, online, news sources that will, do an article about you or interview you, that kind of thing. Putting all this stuff out in print, especially if it's not true, that would fall in line under Article 234. So that is another ding against both of these individuals. Now, I'm not saying that one individual is right and the other individual is wrong. What I am saying is that we are currently seeing damage to credibility and obstruction of business by what is happening online with these two individuals. So there are significant numbers at play here of incidents that can be used as evidence of this stuff happening and occurring. That's why Chapter 35 here under the Penal Code and Chapter 34 here under the Penal Code are extremely important in this case, because these laws are in effect, and you will see that repeatedly that these both individuals are talking about defamation, slander, libel, things like that, and that all falls underneath these two specific chapters in the Penal Code. All right, so let's look a little bit further here at some of the other articles that have been put out. Okay, on the 18th, he filed a countersuit against her after she sued him, and this basically says the same thing that the other article was saying. Now, bear in mind that this was posted on the 18th, and this is roughly about the same time, and I just want to make sure here. I believe this occurred around the same time as when she made that attempt on her life. See what day was that? Okay, so that article was this article was put up on the 18th, which was Monday, and then she posted about her attempt here on the 14th. So that would have been before. So basically, what if we look at the timeline here, she made an attempt on herself on the 14th, and then she was hospitalized for, like, I believe a couple days, and then she got out, and that's when she posted that, of what was going on. And she started doing a lot of Twitch casting or Twitch casting streams. Now, during those specific streams that were since deleted, including the postings out on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, she spent a lot of time talking about what was going on and what the fact that he kept saying things towards her, and that was stressing her out. And not only that, but bringing charges against her forced her to sue in return, and that the amount of cost that is slowly building up on this case is literally draining anything that she has left. Now, bear in mind, yeah, she was making some pretty good money in Hololive. However, in addition to fighting a multitude of other cases, I guess you could say, with regard to online slander and harassment and stalking, having to pay a lawyer for all those cases, losing the one case the one case that had 5 charges against a certain individual, that has a cost attached to it, and then now now you have a lawsuit, a criminal lawsuit thrown against you, and then you're countersuing that person. Those costs are all going to be adding up. So by the time that she's done, she's probably, in all likelihood, most of what she had made in Hololive would have been long drained by then. And I can tell you, with a good amount of, let me just say, a good amount of insight, that what I'm saying is not speculation, because I have talked to her, not voice to voice, but I have briefly talked to her about the fact that there aren't a lot of voices out there that are talking about the actual truth of what's going on. And I asked her, well, how can a person help with this situation? And one of the main things that she said was that the financial cost and legal cost of all the things that are going on has been extremely draining on her, and that she's going to be she's likely going to have to find some way to recoup all the costs after she's done. And a lot of people were asking her yesterday and during her Twitch casting streams, why not just let this go? Why not just, okay, this happened, all this stuff happened. He's going to say what he wants. People are going to hate, why not just let this go? And she's completely obsessed with this entire thing, because she feels that she has been horribly wronged by this individual, and she went on a huge tirade of that, because of everything that happened between her and him. She lost the job of a lifetime. She lost all of her opportunities. She is completely hated by a good majority of the community, and some of the community doesn't want anything to do with her, even though they don't think anything bad about her as an entertainer, and and that she's lost so much because of this guy entering her life and them being stupid and getting into this marriage. She feels like she has a vendetta against him. Now, I don't know, because I have not personally talked to him. I've never seen what's been happening between the two of them, but I will tell you right now, because I have been told this, that what Mafumafu is claiming about the whole Discord thing is completely blown out of proportion. That he's lying about the actual things that they were doing on Discord, and he had been playing games with her the entire time. All right. And he had been psychologically manipulating her the entire time. And the mountain of evidence that shows this, it can. I don't know if the court itself will take it as like actual proof. However, when you look at the actual timeline of what has happened, you can see where some of her claims are justified. All right. Now, she did not go into detail. All right. She did not go into detail because if she went into detail, that would have been detrimental towards her case, especially if she went into detail and people started talking about it. Right. Because then it becomes public. It becomes public knowledge, and then it could be used, against or against her in court, right? However, if you look at the mountain of evidence that has transpired over the last couple years, you have the supposed relationship that lasted 6 months before they got married, right? And then he goes out and claims that on the day that they were supposed to get married and have their honeymoon, she had cheated on him. Why go through with the marriage if that person has just cheated on you and you found out, right? That's strike one. I mean, right there, that the whole and I know I'm speculating a lot here, and I'm injecting my own opinion, but honestly, that is very questionable. And number two, if a person was being that manipulative and that psychotic with you, of needing to have you monitor 24/7, why marry the person? And why stay with them for another 5 to 6 months before divorcing them, and only divorcing them after her career is ruined and you've been found out? I mean, it does not make sense. If you look at number three, when you see, oh, well, okay, he married somebody who's pulling in $1 million a year for their company, and then they just got fired, so you automatically divorce them. And you automatically divorce them. Why? Because they are no longer making money? I mean, he went on with his career for several more months before him saying he was going to take a hiatus. So, I mean, he walked out of this relatively unscathed, So there's a lot of questions that can be asked with this whole situation. Beavers, welcome to the chat. Good morning, Marko. Big and small, I believe you are a cool dude for Mikeneko to take advice from. Well, and I'll get into some of the things I did send her, and I did tell her from an English speaker's perspective of looking at the situation and trying to interpret what the law says for or against in her favor. Okay, so let's quickly look at the last one here. So this article was also filed on the 18th, right? And basically, on the 17th, Mikeneko reported that she had filed a criminal complaint against her ex-husband, and the police accepted the complaint. Speaking of Mafumafu, he announced his hiatus in June 2022, now, which is a very significant time frame, because this is right after the divorce happened. All right, and that he explained that he had been harassed very persistently over this. Now, he had been harassed over the last 6 months. All right, so his story has already changed again. All right, because yeah, it okay, so he had known Mikeneko for 6 months before they got married. She supposedly cheated on him the day that they were supposed to get married. They still got married, and then he got harassed for another 6 months after they were married before he divorced her. If you know it's her, why do you go through all this? You know what I'm saying? But what, I mean, you can't honestly think that what you're experiencing is love and devotion towards a loving spouse if this is all happening. It doesn't make much sense. All right. Now, they talk about the article that had been released. He cried on cue, and I'm sorry to interject my opinion on that, but he did cry on cue. You could tell it was a very scripted conversation. So, and of course, she made Mikeneko made a statement on her blog denying the allegations of two-timing while acknowledging that she was being sued by Mafumafu in civil court. He stated that he had filed a countersuit. She had filed a countersuit against Mafumafu with a complaint that was accepted by the police. Now, this is a very interesting statement here, right? Because if he had filed a civil court court lawsuit against her, and then she countered him with a criminal lawsuit against him, what is going to happen here is one of them, that most likely the civil court lawsuit would end up in litigation, which it has been sat in for months, because of the unreasonable demands that he's making against her, including basically telling her that she cannot make any kind of money as a streamer because of the lawsuit. He wants her completely banned from being able to make money as a streamer. I could see why she would then turn around and file a countersuit against him, including criminal charges, which would fit in with the Japanese penal code that we have already looked at. Okay, so that's where we're at with this. That's where we're at. All right, he basically went off and said, okay, Mikeneko went out and she had made a bunch of accounts, which she had stated and effectively admitted that she had said things about him online. All right, that this had happened, and Mikeneko, in all likelihood, knew that she was not going to win this civil court case against her. So she turned around and filed a criminal case against him, and that would likely fall under, like we talked about earlier, Chapter 34, crimes against reputation, insults under Article 231. And then under Chapter 35, crimes against credibility and business, because you are effectively seeing a damage to credibility and obstruction of business, which he is openly doing by making this lawsuit or this whole situation completely public. Because bear in mind, if part of the litigation that they refused to compromise on in the civil court lawsuit states that she cannot do business as a VTuber, she could turn around and countersue him in criminal court using Article 35 as her reasoning, and he would have to then defend the fact that he is effectively destroying her streamer career by saying, part of our settlement, she can no longer ever be a streamer again. She cannot broadcast as a VTuber. She cannot broadcast in person, because that's basically what is being said right now. All right, so if this can be proven in court with beyond the shadow of a doubt, and she's able to bring these charges against him, he could end up being liable for not just any fine or supposed prison sentence that he gets. He would also then be responsible and have to pay out for all the court costs and all those other things. So I mean, you're talking about a possibility of having a large settlement here. So now, with that all in mind, I do want to take a moment to step out of talking about the actual law and complaints that are being levied here, and do talk about her attempted suicide attempt here, because I believe, and I did not touch on the subject, but I do believe that she likely either realized or was told that she was not going to win the civil suit, and felt backed into a corner, because I seriously wonder whether or not, based on the evidence, that could be used against her, and then as a result, her having to either pay 500,000 yen or what have you to him in order to move on. And the horrible thing about all of this is that you can tell that she's really torn between her ego and her sense of justice, because her ego doesn't want to let this get away. She feels extremely wronged by him. Her sense of justice is what's compelling her to keep pushing these allegations and the lawsuits. But then there's also the other part that wants to be healthy, at least mentally healthy, and she is trying to figure out why she can't move on. And it's like, well, you can't really move on if you continue to pursue allegations that happened in the past. Now, on the flip side of the coin, Mafumafu has been extremely public about what he perceives and his story of what happened and what's going on, and he has shaped the public opinion of him being this extremely helpless victim. And honestly, I don't know if that is the right type of thing to do, because he has been making so many statements out there that if you compare the statements of what he's been saying, there is a lot of inconsistencies within what he's been telling every news outlet that will listen to him. And there's differences between what he said happened and when they happened, what he had been being put through, and what she supposedly done. The allegations of animal neglect and all these other things, and you even go as far as saying what he claimed he walked into when he went to the house that they supposedly bought together. it makes for a very suspicious story that's being spun here, because I didn't ask her, right, but I did mention this. As I said, don't, you know, isn't it strange that he had an apartment the entire time you two were together? I mean, did you not think that weird? I mean, yeah, I know you guys technically aren't supposed to like be together in public, but I mean, that doesn't constitute having a completely separate apartment. It makes for a very very weird scenario of how you can claim, that you're completely 100% faithful when all you are relying on is a Discord connection that can be easily connected via phone, easily be spoofed. you know I mean, how are you actually keeping an eye on somebody through Discord when you can't even see where they're connecting from in Discord? You know, I mean, yeah, you might be able to track down IP addresses if you take the time to do that. But again, IP addresses can be spoofed as well. I mean, I could right now I could look like I'm broadcasting from Cambodia. I mean, that's just how easy it is to do. So I really question the argument in defense of what he has put out there in public, and whether or not there are other things that he has just plain not talked about as his quote unquote defense evidence. Because it really feels paper thin. And if Mikeneko can point to this and say, look at the mental stress that he has put me on, that I've been under duress. I tried to make an attempt on my life because of all the stuff that's been going on. I've had, these are all my doctor bills from all the psychological and psychiatry and psychologists that I've had to see because of all this stuff that's been going on. I mean, there's a lot of things that she could use in her defense and say, look, I am currently under psychological duress because of all the stuff he's doing by going out in public and talking about our past private life. Because that evidence, that is actually private stuff that they're talking about. Right now, whether or not you can prove that privacy, has been breached according to law is a different subject. However, that can also be used in a legal defense, saying that, this person put me under all this duress. Now, the bad thing about Japanese courts, and I hate to say this because, I think that there's something sus going on here that we're not being told by Mafumafu, is the fact that Japanese courts traditionally lean conservative, and the conservative leaning aspect of this typically acknowledges whatever the man says as likely to be true. I mean, some of these, some of these scenarios and some of the courts are slowly catching up to, modernize their court systems and say, hey, this woman has equal rights as well, and we shouldn't look down on her just because she's a woman who can be emotional and and she can't make rational decisions under duress, so the man is let off the hook. I mean, there's actual court cases that say that, right? And that's why I'm even bringing it up, because in a lot of cases still, a judge, depending on how old they are, they look at this situation like this. They say, well, the woman is obviously emotional when all this stuff happened, so she was likely being irrational. So, sir, you are off the hook. I mean, that's basically what they do. Now, hopefully, she gets a judge that will listen to the argument fairly. And if she does, I hope she has the opportunity to present her case in its entirety. But that being said, you know, there's that burden of proof of her levying all these charges against him, and then countersuit, he could also leverage some of those same laws against her and say, you know, that her ongoing, you know, crusade to try to, you know, get me to be counted as guilty of something is damaging my career, it's damaging my reputation, blah, 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 blah. And then you have the whole circle going around and around and around. And basically the judge has to be able to figure out, okay, well, who was the first one that was at fault? And that should take care of all the other stuff that happened afterwards. You know, it just makes it makes for one big circle. You know, the Cool 2T, welcome to the chat. Having two properties, and yeah, I mean, how did he afford? How did he afford the ability to buy two properties? You know, or have two properties. You know, what, you know, having a house that apparently he owned after the divorce, and then also having an apartment that it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. You know. Now, what I will tell you is, when I was able to update her on what is happening in the English world, she acted like she had no idea that this stuff was happening. Whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. I mean, it's very hard to discern somebody's true emotions over the internet, other than what you see or hear. Okay. But I also provide her with several instances of people who were either sensationalizing and embellishing on the situation, or just plain out lying, and also for lack of a better word, a documentary case of somebody who essentially talked in its entirety of what Mafumafu said, and that she was completely guilty of everything, and did not even touch what she said in response. You know, didn't tell her story at all. And I did tell her, I said, you know, these are examples of people who are getting, and these people are getting over 100,000 views on their videos. These people are getting massive amounts of traffic that are English speaking people. And because of this, it's damaging your reputation overseas, as well as damaging your brand. And this can be used as another piece of evidence of what's happening, and what's happening to you specifically. And she seemed to understand what I was getting at, because that very next morning, she went on another tirade that she was saying, you have all these content creators, you have all these content creators and all these people who think they're so smart, and I'm paraphrasing, but she said that they think they're so smart and they know everything. They need to shut up and leave me alone and stop talking about me, because they have no idea what they're actually talking about. She actually said that multiple times, and she was very pissed off about it. She was talking about it, and I'm not laughing because she was pissed off about it. I'm laughing because I don't know how some of these people are able to live with themselves by saying all these things that either aren't true or extremely stretched thin. And I mean, they unless she puts out a request, and this is another thing that she told me. She said that unfortunately the only thing that she can do right now is put in a request for YouTube to take it down, because if she tries to pursue legal action against these other parties that are doing these things on YouTube and other places, she's not going to have any money for the civil and criminal law case against him. And so she really has to pick her battles on what she is, pursuing, and and make sure that she has enough money to live off of still. Now, I know a lot of people will say, well, I mean, she is, still making lots of money, blah 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 blah. Yeah, but she's not streaming every day. She's getting better but she's still not streaming a lot of content every day. And as a streamer, if you go through YouTube, YouTube automatically takes their 30% cut. So even if she's getting 70% afterwards, you still have to figure in a 20 to 30% national tax from Japan. So I mean, you're already cut down to 50% of your whatever you make. And if you're not able to stream every single day and bring that same income in every single day, she may make $5,000 in a single stream, but that $5,000 might have to last her, a week, 2 weeks, and still pay all the legal bills and everything else that's happening. And I'm not sitting here shilling for her. All right, I'm not sitting here shilling for her and say you need to go throw money at her. I'm just being real. Okay, when you're trying to argue a court case, a court battle, and you're trying to, at least keep yourself afloat as a entertainer and a streamer and all this other stuff, I mean, I'm fortunate. I have, a structure behind me so I can do this, and even if I don't make money off of it, I can still do it. All right. By the way, like, share, and subscribe to my channel. All right. YouTube algorithm. I have to remember to say that. I hate it. But anyways, let's look at the chat here. CJC, welcome to the stream. Dropping by to say hi. I'm not feeling well, man. Please take care of yourself. If you're not feeling well, I appreciate you dropping in. I hope you're not too sick with anything serious. If you do, if you are sick with something serious, I hope you have been able to take care of it, either through seeing a doctor or over the counter stuff. But please take care of yourself, all right? Because I would rather you miss me a couple times and get better than get really sick and have something worse happen. All right, so take care of yourself. The Cool 2T, we don't know a lot about the apartment. He may have been, well, and that's the other thing, right? Because he, as far as I know, the last time I looked into his whole deal, and this was probably about 2.5 years ago. He had his own place, and then he had his own office that was established by him, and I believe it was like 2 other people for their little group that he is like, he was running, like, public relations and signing all the collaborations with other companies and stuff like that. He was basically like their selling point, is what I'm trying to say. But there was supposedly another office that he worked out of and that he would commute back and forth between the two of them. Now, I don't know if that's still the case or not. I'm assuming it's probably the case, because I don't think what they had set up would fold just because he took a hiatus. But yeah, we also don't know what the other setup was either. Whether or not he did all of his recording from there, or what he what was he producing stuff from there. I mean, what was the deal that he had from in this apartment. But he also had stated that after they got married, he decided that they shouldn't live together, and so he kept his own apartment. I mean, if my spouse, and I'm sorry for laughing again, but if I married a woman and my wife said, well, I mean, we're both big VTubers, we're both have big fans, it would be very controversial if they saw us walking into a house together. And I looked at her and said, yeah, but you gotta realize, I mean, you get home like at 5, and I don't get off work till about like 9-10 o'clock at night, so we're not gonna be walking in together. So I don't think that's a problem. And she turns around and says, yeah, but I still think I should keep my apartment and not live here. I'll have some stuff here, but I'm not gonna live here. I mean, that would immediately raise red flags in my head. Okay, I get that you're trying to be self-conscious about your reputation, but I mean, that seems very superficial, considering that we chose to, sign an agreement saying that we're going to spend the rest of our lives together. So you're going to keep living by yourself for the next, 10, 12, 15 years. And then after you finally finish your career, then you're going to move in with me. I'm going to be a completely different person, 15 years down the road, and you're barely going to see me, and much less know the person that you married then, So, I mean, there's just a lot of things that just don't quite make sense with this situation. It's part of what makes it fascinating, but it's also part that really makes me suspect that Mikeneko's supposed insecurities about him cheating on her, had some premise of being, worthy of having those fears, because when the only way you're able to talk to your husband is through Discord. I mean, honestly, what kind of relationship is that, for one? And number two, I mean, that's not really marriage, And another thing I did mention to her, and I didn't go into detail about it because I know it's a sticky situation. I did mention to her, that I've worked with people who've had manic depression for 8 years, right? And I know that they can make some decisions during certain times of their lives that were probably not the best things to do. They were probably pretty, either you get by or dangerous to self or their own personal safety, those types of things. And I told her, I said, I mean, you really can use the entirety of your mental health as the defense. I mean, it's proven, it's medically proven that people's judgment, if they have manic depression, can be severely impaired when they go through their different stages. And one of those things is making irrational decisions when you're on that particular part of your stage or cycle. In which case, you could look at saying, well, everything that the entire establishment of our relationship, depending on when that was happening, what her frame of mind was then. I mean, that very well could have been something that she can use and say, look, I was not in my right frame of mind. This stuff all came attributed to my mental health. Are you, is the court going to throw the book at me because of my mental health? I mean, you can't really fault somebody who has no control over their own faculties when they are in, not in the right state of mind to make rational decisions, which also is part of Japanese law. So, it could, the lawsuit itself or the countersuit can be dismissed because of that. I'm not saying it will be. I'm just telling you what the law says as it's can be read online. Whatever a judge says in a Japanese court, with the correct Japanese interpretation of the law may differ. And that's the important thing that people in the English speaking world do not fully comprehend, is that we can go out and read Japanese law in English. You can hear English speaking lawyers who have never practiced law in Japan give their opinion, but at the end of the day, whatever the law is as it's stated and written in the Japanese language, that's passed in through their legal system, is what's going to be applied to this, and that you have to have the burden of proof of saying, this is what he did to me, and he has to be able to prove, in retaliation, that whatever legal, what illegal crimes he thinks she committed to him, he has to be able to prove that in response. They're not going to be able to cancel each other out unless they come to the agreement that they're going to drop the charges on both sides. And honestly, I personally think, and this is my opinion, I personally think, should the lawyers be able to get together with their clients and say, look, you're both right and you're both wrong here. You're not going to get anywhere with this, lawsuit, counter lawsuit. If my client drops the charges, your client drops the charges, go our separate ways. The other big thing that she has a problem with, and we talked about this last time, and she proved me right by talking about this yesterday, during her Twitcast, one of her Twitcasting streams. She said that she has a very bad habit of ego searching on the internet. And that's what really starts, she sees something that's being said, and that's what sets her off. And she hasn't been able to let go of the fact that people are going to say whatever it is that they want to say about her and him and the situation. And she's essentially trying to take on the world and pinpoint him as the entirety of the blame, and spending so much time and effort into it that, the fight should really be, tell him to shut his mouth and move on. Yeah, it happened. Yeah, things happened. It was a bad relationship. It was a bad choice. Okay, it's gone. It's already happened. Let's move on. I mean, what more does there need to be said aside from, the deep, dark, dirty little secrets that they may know of each other? I mean, you're spending so much time and effort and energy trying to prove the other person wrong, when you could be using that energy and money and, that time and effort into doing something, constructive with yourself. CJC, thanks. Just a bit of an allergy. Allergy and sore throat. Yeah, that is going around like crazy. Almost everybody has some form of it, myself included. And I've even taken an antihistamine before I started, and I still feel completely congested. So I get you. But do try to take care of yourself, because it starts off as allergies and sore throat, and if you let it get away from you, that sore throat can turn into something more significant. So do be careful. So let's see here. What else was there that I wanted to discuss here? So, it looks like see, I already talked about that. I talked about that. We talked about that. So, one of the key things that I had told her, I said, regardless of what you try to do, or whatever your decision is, I mean, several of these people are going to continue talking about you, and they're going to continue to not tell your side of the story, or they'll just briefly summarize it in like 2 minutes, but talk about what Mafumafu said for half an hour. And that's why I try to give at least an overall perspective of what's going on before I start giving my my actual opinion on these situations, because I can see where Mafumafu has an out with this whole situation. All right, I can see it. I don't know if she can see it coming, but I do see it coming. And it's actually very bad because she what she does is she makes these twitcasts and streams, right? Where she tries to use them as an outlet, or a way of blowing off steam and all these other things, and then she deletes the archives, right? She doesn't keep the archives; she deletes them along with the tweets and everything else. The bad thing about it is that you have plenty of people out there that will gladly pay the $5-10 or whatever to sit there and record it, and then disseminate everything that was said in that chat, or in what she said, and use that against her, and she gets mad about not having the ability to do that. And I believe that part of the reason why she does this, a lot of people will say, well, she's taking shots at him, and she's hiding behind a paywall, she's hiding behind trying not to leave an archive of it, and and she's just trying to basically trying to slander him without leaving any evidence. And there could be some truth to that. But I also think the other side of the story is, and she mentioned this the other day too, is that she doesn't really have anybody in real life to talk to about stuff like this. People mentioned, well, what about Kason, and everything else, and she told her chat that she doesn't want to drag Kason into this, which is very, very nice, but also at the same time very sad, because she said, I don't have anybody to talk to about this stuff other than her lawyer. And I was kind of shocked when she said that, because I had been wondering for quite a while whether or not that was actually the case, and she had openly admitted to that. And if that is the actual truth, I mean, the only people that she has that she can talk to, and she said she didn't want to drag them into it, is Kason and her family, you know, and several people, have been trying to convince her and tell her, well, if you have family, at least go, let them be some kind of support for her. But she doesn't seem to want to do that either. So it's very strange, but at the same time, I can understand that there's a driving force behind her, and I think part of it is psychological, that she maintains having this vindictive attitude of, she wants to keep pursuing this one thing until somebody's somewhere sometime in the legal system proves her right, and says, yes, you're right, he was wrong. She's looking for that, confirmation before she can let it go, and it's becoming an obsession for her. And I tried to, when I was telling her about this other stuff, I just kind of slid in there. I was like, maybe it's time just to kind of move on. I mean, you're gonna have people that support you, and cheer you on through this entire thing. However, when it comes to you, you should really kind of consider moving on. I mean, look at all the stuff that she had done and accomplished since moving on. And and that was kind of one of her other hangups too, where she felt deeply regretful that that she had to postpone some of her collaborations with other companies and other businesses because of the entire thing, and then also with the people that have been stealing her the illustrations that she had done and have been done for her. That was one of the other things that really set her off too, and she just, I mean, she can file takedown notices on all these people, but I mean, by the time that they've already taken, they take it down, the damage is already done, and she's like, I don't know how to stop it. I'm like, well, I mean, when you're this popular, you're not going to be able to stop all of it, and you're probably going to be able to stop some of it, but you're still going to have a lot of it that happens, that is going to happen, and unless you hire somebody specifically to curate all this stuff that's happening behind your back, you're either going to have to kind of live with it, or you're going to have to accept it, or go crazy trying to fight it. And that's kind of where she's at right now. You know what I'm saying? Though I hope she would just lay low, but maybe she's just had enough of. Well, part of it is that she's had, she's frustrated. She's extremely frustrated. She does, and now that the genie is out of the bottle, and a lot of this stuff is more out in the open, she's trying not to talk about it because she doesn't want to. She basically said that her lawyer has advised her not to talk about these things in her streams, because that would give ammunition for him, potentially. However, she at the same time, she feels like she has nobody to talk to about this. If she can't talk to us, then she's like, well, who am I supposed to talk to? And that kind of validates the entirety of her being a otaku hikikomori type person, because of probably her mental behavior. and that's where everything leads to, is that it seems like there is a compelling part of her that in her mental faculties that keeps her going into this same thing over and over and over again, and that she's not able to let go because of it. I honestly think that, were she to go and get, a better diagnosis now of, what she's going through, and, and proper treatment, that, she might be able to, rein a lot of this stuff in and be productive again. Because it does feel like she's kind of like in a standstill right now, because she feels that she has to stop everything and drop everything to work on this. Now there could also be a case where with him countersuing her, that there could be a thing there where they're trying to compel her not to stream for the entirety of litigation, or the entirety of whatever the court cases are actually heard in court. And she's trying to fight that, and because if she can't stream, she can't make money. You know what I'm saying? So, and again, people look at this and say, well, she used to make six figures. Yeah, she used to make six figures. She doesn't make six figures anymore. And even if she does get up to close to six figures, that's all going to be going towards a lawyer, to try to fight a case against this other guy. So. I mean, it's not like she's, it's not like she's just, living the rich and famous life, and, trying to pull drama out of this to get more money. I mean, part of it, I believe it really is a cry for help, and saying, I can't, and she also said this yesterday, I can't do this on my own, and she feels like she is trying to do it on her own, and she can't handle it, and and that's why, I mean, she does turn towards her fans, and it's starting to make a lot more sense that, and you guys may remember that I had made the comment last year, and I was questioning why Mikeneko was monetizing herself so much, that she was put, and this is all opinionated, okay? This is an opinionated thing I'm about to say. It makes a lot more sense now that she had, why she was monetizing everything that she possibly could, because she was trying to make sure that she had enough financial stability, or enough saved up, to fight a legal battle. And if you look at it from the a lens of perspective of being able to prepare for something that that's going to be a monumental fight, for lack of a better word. If she knew that all this stuff was coming down the line, it does make sense why she had everything, things on Fanbox, things on Twitcast, things on YouTube, signing with Fizojo, selling merch, all this other stuff. It does totally make sense, because I mean, if you were to fight a legal battle in America, you're looking at I mean, at least 50 grand down. There was a litigation settlement recently in the place that the town that I live in, and the litigation won $100 million that can be paid out to by a trust for whatever the thing is that they did. But then the lawyer takes 33% of that. And it's kind of like, okay, so that if the lawyer takes 33% of that, and then you have the remaining 66%, you have that's still a lot of money. But once you divide that up with how many people you are actually receiving money, getting their own piece of that, it turns out to be extremely small. And it's pretty much the same thing with what she's going through right now. If she has 7 people that are all working against her, and she's trying to fight a lawsuit against 7 people, that's 7 different cases that you have to pay a lawyer to go out there and fight for you. I mean, it's all going to add up. You're not going to be rich. You're going to be in debt. So I mean, I would argue the case now in hindsight that because of the things that we did not know back then. Yes, she still has a problem mentally that she has to address, but she's also fighting a legal battle, and then she's also fighting a financial battle. I mean, if depending on what the Neko Knight appears. Hey, welcome to the chat. Welcome. There's also a possible mindset to people who followed them that if she remains silent and not doing anything despite all that he's been saying, she'd likely. Well, yeah, and that's the other thing too. You are fighting an argument of damned if you do, damned if you don't type thing, and the fact that she has been trying to speak out as much as possible without going too much into detail is it's a stress reliever mechanism, but at the same time it's also trying to reassure her fan base that she had done nothing wrong. Again, that's all up to the what the court decides, because I mean, honestly, as it's written, at the laws as they are written, these things can really go both ways, and I honestly think that these laws will go, I mean, if you apply the law as it's written to each situation, they're both guilty of it. So it's kind of like American football. Okay, so are these offsetting penalties and no one gets penalized and repeat the first down? I mean, you really have to start asking those questions. Now, if she's levying multiple different charges against him, that could be a different story. Because if like the case of the other guy, she had lost, I believe it was 4 out of 5 charges in that particular case, and everyone was saying, "Oh, she lost the lawsuit. She lost. No, she lost 4 out of the 5 charges. There was still 1 charge that the person was held criminally liable for. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head, but it could be the same thing here. It really can't, because I mean, when you start applying crimes against reputation and you start talking defamation laws, you don't just have the penal code that you're looking at. You're also looking at the civil code, with the way that it's currently been written into it regarding defamation of online activities. Because those laws have been freshly written in a different section of the entirety of the code. So, but again, just looking at the penal code alone, you have at least 5 different sections that they're both guilty of, and it's just a matter of who can prove their case more of. You're basically looking at damages at this point. What are the damages? What were the outcomes? And who's going to be held liable for what? And let's be real. If what Mafumafu said is true, all right. If, big if, but if what he said is true, and he didn't know how a relationship was supposed to be, all right. And he's able to completely play up this, naive little boy, person that he claims that he was. the judge is likely going to look at him and tell him, boy, this is what real life is. This is not, your whole emo, crap thing that he does. Yeah, this is real life, son. What, you think you understand what real life is now? And then dismiss the case in its entirety. I'll have to check the VOD later since I'm needed elsewhere. Hey, Mr. Haxwell, thank you for dropping in. I appreciate you being here. Thank you. Dicron, both parties slandered each other, but Mafumafu's fans are jealous that boy married. Yeah, well, yeah, and that's the other argument that I was talking about before you came in, which is a good point, okay? Because you not only have him coming out and saying these things that may or may not be true, right? Then you have other people repeating that and saying things online, which spreads over, social media, spreads over YouTube. Content creators talk about it. Content creators take things out of context. Content creators, sensationalize things. I'm not mentioning certain people, but you know what I'm talking about. Then you have content creators that think that they represent what the law is going to be like, so they give their own interpretation, not mentioning names. You have all these things that are happening, right? And people are taking that content, and it's coming from Mafumafu, and they're amplifying it by twisting the story, which continues that chain of slander. All right, and that's where the argument can come, is going to come in, where it, like what I showed her earlier this week. I said, you have this content that is being put out by Mafumafu, and it's being picked up by people in the English language, and they're turning around and getting hundreds of thousands of people per video giving this slanderous take of what happened without taking or saying anything on your side of the story, as far as evidence. They're just saying, okay, Mafumafu said this, it has to be true, we're running with it because Jack Sparrow went through this with his ex-wife, so this has to be another case of that. I mean, that's they're using the Johnny Depp defense with Mafumafu. That's basically what they're doing. But they don't take anything that Mafumafu has said or supposedly done into account. They don't question they don't question why he had his own apartment while still being married. They don't question the fact that he keeps changing the timeline of how things happen. They don't question the fact that she was trying to supposedly use Discord as a digital dog leash. I mean, there are just so many things that just don't make sense, including him claiming, that he had the Discord voice chat open 24/7, so she could, tell whether or not he was talking to other people. It's like, okay, but if you turn on Discord and you connect to a call, and then you walk away from your desk, the call's still there. And then what happens, if you don't pick up your Discord someplace else? I mean, you're still going to be showing that you're at home, but you're still going to be going out and doing other things. So trying to use that as your defense of her being manipulative of you and shackling you with a digital dog leash. You can easily by free will, you can easily stand up and walk away from this. There's still free will here. There is no entrapment of him in any way, shape, or form where she physically, kept him in one spot. He had his own apartment that he never actually lived with her. You cannot you could not claim that you were confined and mentally manipulated by somebody if you're not even within the same building, zip code, wherever it is that they have over in Japan. I mean, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. Any rational person would look at this and say, "This is stupid." I don't have time to listen to this. I'm throwing your argument out. There's clear evidence that she was right to have suspicions about you. Now either figure it out with her, or I'm gonna make you pay. I mean, that's basically what it looks like. Now I get that she had, she did go and make these other accounts and fire off some very hostile comments aimed towards him. I get that, okay? I'm not discounting that happened. That is also defamation by law. That it makes her subject of a penalty as well. Okay, I get that. She has admitted to that. That should be used, in his defense. Because I mean, you have someone readily admitting to it. However, the argument that he has made of him being naive and not knowing what a real relationship is supposed to be like is not a legal defense. What other things does he have to defend himself with? Okay, well, you have all these snippets of text messages or DMs or things like that are supposedly evidence of infidelity or whatever it is that he's trying to claim on her, right? However, those pieces of evidence don't have actual timestamps. Some of them do, but not all of them. All right, and there is no consistency between those screenshots of anything leading up to or people having an actual relationship. All right. If you look at it and you look at the timeline and you're like, okay, well, we have all of these, DMs that he supposedly had access to, reminder, he had access to all these DMs that supposedly allowed him to take screenshots of. How he got these DMs? Did he break into her account and get these DMs? We don't know. How did he get these DMs? These supposed DMs between him and her? This third guy. How did he get those DMs? Did he send them those DMs, those screenshots? Well, if somebody sends you random screenshots and they only give you a tiny section of it, you're going to say, where's the rest of the conversation? Because if you don't give me the rest of the conversation, then how am I going to know if this is even a legitimate, screenshot that has not been doctored? I have seen plenty of screenshots of things that people supposedly had said that are completely doctored because people are just that good with Photoshop. So you're looking at a lot of different things here, and you have to ask yourself these questions. Okay, well, this stuff happened. They said bad things against each other. We get that. That falls underneath Article 231, Article 230. All right, we got that. That's settled. Both of them are guilty of that. Okay, now they're providing me with these supposed screenshots of showing infidelity. Well, that's civil court. That's not criminal court. So that's being handled with a different lawsuit that has already been settled. So that's out the window. You can't really talk about that. All right. I mean, yeah, that can be a component of it, but that cannot be like part of the actual defense, because that's handled in civil court, in family court, not in a district court that's handling a criminal case. So what are the other criminal offenses here? Well, you do have the offense, the damage to credibility and obstruction of business in chapter 35. If and this is another if, okay, because we haven't seen the actual paper evidence or anything like that. But if Mafumafu has come out, him and his lawyer put in the stipulation in litigation where they tried to, or they are attempting to obstruct her from being able to conduct business based upon the slander that is being said, they have to prove that, and they have to prove that they are innocent, and they are not currently doing that. If you look at all the negative press that is happening online, and all the negativity that is being directed towards her, both in Japanese and in English, that all that stuff has been supplied to her, you can claim that because of what Mafumafu's saying and everyone talking about it and everything he's saying and everything that he's doing is causing her to lose business, because her business is online content creation as an entertainer and a singer. And that's automatically crimes against credibility in business. And if he's, you're not physically doing it, but if he is filing lawsuits and he has this included in his criminal lawsuit as, what they're demanding that she does, that falls under Article 234 of forcible obstruction of business. Even though they're not physically stopping her, they are trying to stop her through the courts. I mean, what else do you want? I mean, I get that he has some of these things. I've looked them over. I've had people look at it to make sure that I understood what was being said on them. I get it. You're trying to present all this stuff as, this is her infidelity. But a smart man's got to ask you, why did you marry her if you knew of the infidelity the same day that you were supposed to get married? Why'd you go through with it? Why are you claiming infidelity now? And going out and constantly talking about this now, I mean, his behavior out there shows no remorse and there is absolutely 100% no indication that he is owning up to anything that has happened between the two of them. It's 100% utter and complete deniability of everything that's happened between the two of them. Not once has he, said, I own this. The only thing he owns is that he owns up to lying to his fans. That's the only thing that he owns up to. And you just gotta look at a person and say, okay, so where's your integrity if you're not going to own up to the fact that your marriage failed? You're a part of that failed marriage, and the reason why you two keep fighting with each other is because you both are too stubborn to let go, because you keep on wanting to try to prove each other wrong and not take responsibility for what happened. Be a responsible grown-up. Not that you look like one, but at least try to act like one and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to tell her, I'm going to walk away. I'm going to ask her, please walk away. And we're never going to talk about this again. And you know what? If somebody comes along and slanders you online with, fake names and fake accounts, ignore them. Be the bigger man. Hell, I still get people that sit there and hate on me from back in December. I'm not gonna let them win. I just look at them, I laugh, and then I block them. I mean, whatever. I mean, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to know. You just need to, I constantly make this reference, but I don't mean to be mean, but I mean, why does it take? Why can't he figure out what love is? When you got millions of women, swooning over everything he says, and it only takes one to make him completely ballless. I mean, it just doesn't make a lick of sense unless you're just trying to protect your ego. And at this time, ego is the thing that is the most destructive thing that is happening here. It's like he feels that she's wronging him, so he goes out and he ups her by doing something a little bit worse, and then feigns being the victim of the entire thing. Never once, again, aside from apologizing to his fans, which is a typical business thing that people do in Japan, and also a legal thing that people do in Japan, where there is an obligation to apologize. People always say that Japan and Japanese people are always apologetic. It's written into their code of conduct, as well as a lot of their laws, where you come out and you physically and publicly apologize. So you can take that apology with a grain of salt, because I mean, hey, when Fukushima leaked all that nuclear waste and nuclear stuff into the ocean, what happened? The head people of TEPCO came out and they apologized. And like, we're sorry for the extreme difficulty and circumstances that we caused. Yeah, now fix it before people die. I mean, why are you here telling me this nonsense? Well, it's part of the legal system, and it's part of the custom. It means absolutely nothing. I mean, you might as well just have somebody nod at you and say and because that's basically what it means. It's 2024, Marko. The dating game has changed. That is absolutely true. People don't look at relationships the same way. Even more so with the way people act towards each other. I mean, that's why you have more than 50% of all marriages and divorce, and about the same amount of people have infidelity, and affairs, here in the United States and in Japan. This is the other thing that really, really kind of pissed me off about LM and the eyed person, and then also another person, which I don't remember what her name is off the top of my head. So they basically made an entire case of, and this was also slander, where they took what Mikeneko did as her time as Rushia, and they basically compared her to a slut that is in the sex trade business. Okay. And basically they were comparing what she was doing to, the real girlfriend experience only virtually, and that she was basically selling herself purely for the interaction and not because she was actually, making content, or trying to make content or trying to do anything, other than sell herself online. That is basically what certain people were trying to do. They're trying to make her out to be an online whore, right? And that kind of pissed me off when I heard them say that, because I get that the real girlfriend experience is something that is a thing in Japan, especially with prostitution and all that other stuff. I get that is a thing. However, there is a drastic difference between what she was doing and what women actually do when they are selling themselves online for the rated X version of the girlfriend experience. And if you want to do a comparison, look at what Mikeneko does compared to what a certain knight does. That's part of Hololive. Because if that ever got looked at heavily, and thoroughly examined, you would see that there's a drastic difference between what Mikeneko does and then what that other person does. I have to see that clip, Marko. Selling yourself is the most BS I've heard. It's not like she's showing. Yeah, exactly. She may be once in a while, doing like a live cam and wearing a cute outfit or something like that, But I mean, there are people that are currently still employed by places like Covercore who do that. Who they bear almost everything, and they keep just enough covered up so they can't legally be considered pornographic, and then there's still like standards even with the what X rated type of interaction that they do. Mikeneko never goes that far. I mean, if you want an interpretation of what the girlfriend experience it really is, and I'm talking like PG-13. I mean, just look at what Rika does, on her channel at Neko. I mean, she sits there and she talks, and then you get like the whole kissing sound ASMR stuff like that. I mean, she used to go more intense than that, but she at least while she was employed by Hololive, she stopped doing that. I have no idea if she's going to actually go that far ever again, but even if she doesn't, I mean, you're just listening to somebody acting like they're kissing you. I mean, that's basically what it is. I mean, that's the real girlfriend experience. Kissing, making out, maybe talking to each other, talking to her while she's eating supper, and they're all eating supper in Japan or whatever, or eating breakfast together. There's all these, there's all these things that don't involve sex that are part of the quote-unquote real girlfriend experience that these girls do sell, because you have lots of guys out there who just plain out, I mean, I hate to say this, but as many men, and I don't want to be taken out of context here, but as many men are really big pains in the asses and for lack of a better word, a dick, there's a lot of women out there that are just plain mean towards men. If you can't give them money, if you can't give them this or that, they don't want nothing to do with you. And having to sort through like 90% of women who are like that, in your general area, and trying to find that 1 out of 10 person. A lot of guys, they're just like, hey, I keep striking out, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. So they turn to stuff like that because at least then for a little while they do feel welcome. And people, if you're going to punish somebody and fault them for making another person feel like a human being for a little while, I mean, you really gotta look at what you're doing. I'm sorry. You have more people out there that are trying to ruin other people's lives, either intentionally or otherwise. And it's like, okay, so 20 years from now, are you still going to be doing this? Is that going to be your big selling point to your kid when I was your age? I used to bully people that were online streamers. Yeah, I had a whole botnet network that spammed every single one of them. Is that going to be your selling point towards your son or daughter and say, yeah, I want you to grow up and be like me? I mean, honestly, I don't get, why a lot of people like harbor this type of like vendetta towards people. I mean, I have certainly had my share of, online battles, both, people that are haters and people that I feel like wronged me. But I vented and I said what I had to say, and then I kept walking. That's the grown up thing to do. I mean, if you cannot be a grown up about it, I genuinely feel sorry for you because you obviously lack something inside of yourself where you feel so insecure that you can't let go of it. And I also feel kind of bad towards like people like Mikeneko because it may be a psychological component that they just have not been able to overcome. Streamers spend time on you for the well, and that's the whole thing. Okay, like, hey, look, I'm currently streaming, right? I'm not monetized. I'm currently streaming and I'm doing my own thing. I don't get paid 1 cent for what I do. And sometimes I spend 8-10 hours talking, all right? Now, and I keep telling you guys, one of these days, maybe I'll get monetized, which would be nice. But at the same time, I'm not sitting here and I'm not like, pushing for it. I'm not like, you guys gotta get me up here. You guys gotta do this. You guys gotta do that. I'm not begging for your money. I'm probably one of the few streamers that doesn't beg for your money. I mean, I sat here through the entire NFL football season watching two guys shill themselves like every 5 minutes. Like, oh, if you want to talk to me, you want me to make sure I see you in the chat, send me super chat, like, share, and subscribe. Hey, I still have a membership, you get all these, I mean, they're literally sitting there shilling themselves. It's like every 5 minutes, because they're trying to get people to, spend money just to, like, make sure that I see your comment. I was like, okay, what comment do you want to see? The fact that I am laughing at your team? I mean, yeah, I get that if you're like, actually doing something, but you're just sitting there watching a football game while streaming. That's basically what you're doing. I can do that too. But I don't think I would, I don't think that's entertaining. I mean, I understand like when you do watch-alongs, and you're all engaged in the same movie and stuff like that. I get trying to watch a movie together. I still can go either way with watching a movie with, while being online. But I mean, most of the time, I will only watch a movie that with a person that's streaming a watch along if I've never seen that movie, because otherwise I'm like, I've already seen this one. But that's about it. You have liked, shared, and subscribed. Thank you, the Cool2T. I appreciate it. Yeah, but make sure you watch all my content and my back catalog and blah blah blah. No, it's good. And that's another thing that I have recently taken kind of a small detour of with Mikeneko, because I always wondered why she she tended to pay attention more towards people who spend a lot more money than people who were, dropping smaller amounts. And I think it's because she was, like I said, when she moved from Russia to Mikeneko, um, number one, she was trying to make sure that she was financially secure. And number two, she didn't know where her money was going to go, or if her money was going to be seized and frozen, and if they had shared accounts. I mean, there's lots of variables there. But even now, when you're not sure, or you're trying to pay for your legal team to fight a case in court with you, you're trying to make sure that you hit a certain threshold so you can be financially secure, and at least live and pay rent for the next month. So I can kind of soften my stance on that, because I've watched Mafumafu come out on a stream or whatever, and yeah, there is some negativity in the chat and everything like that, but I mean, he doesn't pay attention to the chat. I've never once seen him pay attention to the chat, unless he was talking straight on like twitcasting. Otherwise, he doesn't even pay attention to what people are saying. He never acknowledges what they say. He never, he'll acknowledge, like, if you drop like $100 on him, but otherwise he doesn't acknowledge who is saying stuff in chat. He shows up and he expects people to throw money at him. That's basically what he's doing. And honestly, in a lot of cases, that's what streamers do. They show up online to do something, and they're hoping that you'll like the content enough that you'll throw money at them. That's what a streamer's job is. But you also have to look at, okay, well, what kind of quality content am I getting? Am I getting quality for my money? That kind of thing. But you can't totally fault them for doing that. And at the same time, I'm starting to understand, especially after the back and forth I had with her about the other English streamers that were throwing a lot of shade at her. I'm starting to really understand why she is, especially now, popping in more often and trying to do and say and stream as much as she can, because she has a legal battle ahead of her, and depending on how much in court costs or fines or whatever is divvied out in the cases. And here's the thing, I don't know enough about Japanese law to know whether or not, like, the judge can find them both guilty, which maybe that's a scenario that can happen in Japanese law. I don't know, but it certainly does fit the summary of what, at least on the surface level, I could see them trying to press in court, especially with the whole slander thing, where they both have to pay fines, they both have to stop talking to each other. Well, I mean, there's I don't know if there's a scenario where they both walk out as losers or not. I really don't. But if it validates both of them, saying that you were both wrong, and the judge actually, like, reprimands them for not being responsible adults, I would really hope that happens, because it really does feel like you have the people who don't know how relationships are supposed to work, got together, got married, couldn't get to work out because they don't know how relationships work, broke up, and now they're mad at each other, and they can't let go of the fact that this happened, and now they have to live with it. There are a lot of cases out there where you'll see, like, a family member who is just they have somebody that's on death row, for doing something against one of their family members, and then they sit there and they wait patiently for each and every day, and they just let that build up, and once they the person is gone, some of them get that initial sense of relief, but then they get that sense of emptiness because they the target of their obsession for justice is no longer there. And I'm really starting to see some of that with like Mikeneko and some of her comments, because despite her saying that she wants to fight against these people who are bad mouthing her and saying bad things about her, or content creators out there that are don't have all the information. They're just telling what they want people to hear and things like that. Once she's done, and once there's no more that she can take legally, she doesn't know what she's going to do next. And it's kind of the scary thing for her, because she's like, I don't know what, I mean, I want to do things, but I don't know what I should do. Should I play something long? Should I play something short? Should I do more talking streams? Should I do blank and blank? She just does not have a plan right now. She just does not know. And that's kind of scary in a way for somebody who's supposed to be established, because she feels like she's in limbo, and she might very well be in limbo, and perhaps she's hoping that getting through the whole criminal court proceeding will finally get her out of that and into a place where she can start working on other things again. But it seems like her vision is so unfocused right now, that it's a bit troubling, because I get the sense that she is just now starting to discover things that she did not know what was going on. And that is fueling her and driving her into the next thing that she is prosecuting, or alleging against the other guy. And if she doesn't have any kind of thing, plan, and that she is going to do, we're going to continue to see like what we have right now, more twit casting that comes up, and listening to her rant, and listening to her talk, and then those things automatically get pulled down. If her lawyer calls up and says something is not going their way, that's automatically going to stress her out. Well, what's she going to do then? Well, she's probably going to do the same thing, and if she talks to to the camera, and she's starts talking about things that are going on, and all it takes is one person to record what she's saying and then get back to Mafumafu before they can use it against her. So I mean, there's a lot of things that just concern me about what she's doing. I would not feel concerned about her if she's like, okay, the legal thing is going to be the legal thing, the online thing, I'm just going to keep doing what I have been doing and carrying on, as Mikeneko, and doing whatever, until everything else is settled, and then leave it in the past. I mean, that would be the best thing for her to do. But whether or not she actually does it, that's a different story. I mean, they only dated for 6 months and got married. Damn, not enough time to really get to. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I've mentioned it before in a previous stream. People that have manic depression, their behavioral cycles can be 6 months long. A typical cycle could be 2 weeks of extreme activity and being extremely hyper, and then you get another 2 to 3 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks of coming down off of that high until you crash. And then that crash can last 2 to 4 weeks, and then you start your way back up again. So, I mean, if they met on while she was on a high, or when she was in that feel good area part of her cycle, and then they got married, and then she went downhill, and then she got depressed and paranoid. I mean, it's very possible that could have been just the alignment of perfect circumstances, where because of her mental illness, it exploded on it blew up in both of their faces. But yeah, you're exactly right. 6 months is not enough time to be able to know somebody well enough to say, hey, I want to spend the rest of my life with this person, especially if they didn't even spend every day with them. I mean, I when I was in high school, I was like, oh, I'm gonna marry my high school sweetheart, so on and so forth. But I spent every single day with her, both at school, and then dropped her off and everything else. I spent 10-12 hours with her. So I mean, that they didn't do that. Apparently, they didn't do that at all. So if they only met a few times, I find it hard to believe that they only met a few times, and then they decided to get married. How do you do that? I mean, I know how you do that, but why would you do that? They're in their 30s at this age. They should have known what. Well, and that's just it, okay? Because there is a whole type of culture, type of stigma, and it's slowly changing, right? But and it's mainly changing because, especially with women who are in the entertainment industry, that if they choose to be 40 or older, they typically when you get to be 40 years or older, there's a stigma of you being too old to marry, because at the age of 40 there's a much higher risk towards the mother if they were to get married and have children then and start trying to make a family then. And that's why you'll see, like, in culture, that late 20s, early 30s, typically by then you start husband searching, or at least the old tradition was you start looking for a husband to marry at that age, because that's when you're trying to establish yourself and settle into life and finish growing up, and grow into a family. But when you get into the entertainment industry, a lot of the women, especially now, they'll go into their 40s before they retire. And then, after they retire, they announce that they have, met somebody and that they're going to get married. And some of them, under doctor's supervision, they have children then. And nobody questions, well, how long did you know the guy that you married? And that's what a lot of people in the entertainment industry end up doing. But they kind of do have those stealth marriages, that maybe they got married, when she was 39 or something like that, But it's always a big deal when these women do get engaged to be married, and they still choose to continue entertaining, because that's why you see these women having press conferences, announcing that they're engaged with somebody, because they're basically making a public statement that I'm going to make it known that I am in a relationship with this person. This person agrees that they are in a relationship with me. That's basically what they're doing. Yeah, you break a lot of people's hearts that way, but in the end, it's better for them to formally announce it than have it leaked out and then having it blow up in your face like what's happening right now. The worst is that it's their job to, like, they act like perfect lover boy girl material, so their fans. Well, yeah, and that's one of the legitimate arguments that I will acknowledge with one of the streamers out there that was talking trash about her is, you know, that you know, especially while Rushia, you know, she did present herself as, you know, a girl that somebody could fall in love with, and, you know, they would be, you know, if you fell in love with her, you know, you'd be hers and only hers, and you know, she would be yours and all this other stuff. Oh, by the way, slight segue. Um, I hope this year nobody in Hall Live releases merchandise that includes them being in a bridal dress, because the last 2 years, every single year, one of the girls in Hall Live sold merchandise, you know, because of the whole June Bride type thing that comes up, and both years, they got fired. We had Rishia 2 years ago, and then we had Mel last year. So, word of warning: if you see one of the girls in the Hall Live release merchandise where she's in a bridal outfit, hopefully she'll break the curse of her, you know, not being fired by Hull. It is a curse. It is the bridal curse of Hall Life. I swear. You know, I mean, I literally got my merch from Mel, of Mel's thing, and then a month later she was fired, and I'm sitting here going, damn. Because I had just like, you know, I had just taken a picture of it, you know, and said I got your merchandise, and you know, because I really liked the design of the necklace that she put out, and that was supposed to be one of those like promise necklace things that, you know, we're always together and blah blah blah. And I like the design, and I wanted to show support for her, so I got that, you know, but yeah, it really sucks. So I fingers crossed, please nobody this year do a bridal theme in your merch. You know, but anyways, guys, I am gonna cut it off here because I am going to I'm gonna have to push that back. Okay, so I'm going to move my let's see. I might have to move it. I'll figure it out here during lunch. I do want to at least take a shot at seeing how far I get with and Dragon's Dogma, with Dragon's Dogma 2 coming out. I haven't been pre-purchasing games because if they come with a bunch of bugs, I don't want to waste my money or time on it. You know, unless you know, there's a lot of spectacular things that happen during those things, maybe I'll buy it then. But no, I've heard some pretty decent things about Dragon's Dogma 2, so I want to at least play Dragon's Dogma 1 a bit to get familiar with what the universe is. So I will either be playing that tonight or tomorrow. I will have to look at my schedule. So but other than that, hey Marko, I was listening the entire time. I just wasn't talking. Enjoyed the stream. The Shadow Master, thank you so much for dropping in. The Cool 2T also, thank you for dropping in. CJC, always a pleasure having you in chat. Beavers, I know you were in chat earlier too. Thank you so much for dropping in. Diacron, thank you for dropping in as well, my friend. It was great to have you here. I do remember you from last stream, and it's always a pleasure having you. The Mr. Haxwell, thank you for dropping in as well. Azra, thank you for dropping in as well. Thank you so much. Yeah, he's a really good shadow person, isn't he? Yeah, he blended in the shadows so much I didn't even see you there. So, guys, just in closing here, I do want to state that again, just because I have had a little bit of communication with her does not mean that I'm like buddies and friends and have an inside scoop or inside knowledge. Nor has anything I have said something that I didn't already tell her that I would be talking about. So just so we're clear on that, I have sent her messages before before the stream, telling her that I am talking about and outlining what's happening with her situation, and I'm doing it, doing an English stream of it so I can bring awareness to her situation without the slander. However, I have also told her, and she has been made aware of several streamers, and I won't mention any names, that have been putting up slanderous type of content, which does fit in line with what we talked about tonight. Now, it doesn't mean that she's going to turn around and automatically issue a lawsuit against these people, because in many cases, unless there is a direct violation and they are within Japanese jurisdiction, the most that she can do is get YouTube issue a takedown notice from YouTube. But that being said, that is also evidence of a bigger thing that's happening with her. So, I always try to be impartial. As much as I have personal opinions against Mafumafu, I do try to at least tell his side, side of the story as well as her side, while I'm giving my own commentary on things. So I don't try to take sides unless I have really strong feelings towards one side or the other based upon factual evidence. I also, and I forgot to do it here today, but after I end the stream, I will also be putting all the reference links that I use for the stream in the description, to show you exactly where the sources are that I'm pulling the information from. And as always, I always try to use government sites as well as legitimate news sites for the information I share, and also what I know and I'm able to tell you from the talent itself. So I just want to make sure that's completely clear out there, because I don't want anyone going out there and saying, "Oh, Marko knows so and so, and he's been talking all about what he says with talks with her." I'm like, no, I'm not. I really am not. So, okay, guys, thank you so much for showing up. We will see you on the next on the flip side. Have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever the case may be for you. Until then, guys, this is Marko Yamashita signing off. Peace.
I like to get paid, that's why I work every day. I'll be making money till I'm in my grave, don't care.